Hello and welcome to today's webinar on Is 2021 the year for AI to shine? I am Valentine Coden, Director at News Group, and I will be your host today. Before we start, I'll go through some housekeeping items with you. We will be running a live Q&A at the end of the webinar, and we have enabled our Ask a Question feature. It is on the right-hand side of your screen, so if you have any questions, just write them in there. Please note that the presentation and the recording of this webinar will be shared with you after this session. We will also answer individually to any questions if we run out of time for the Q&A session. In this webinar, our guest speaker, Roger Van Dam, will share with you some of the latest trends in artificial intelligence that we believe will impact your business. AI is here to stay, and it is time for organizations to safely, creatively, and boldly apply AI to emerge stronger in the short term and the long term. Roger Van Dam is our Chief Data Scientist at Neos Group. Roger's career has been built on the fundamentals of data modeling and predictive analytics. Roger also teaches business analytics and machine learning at University of Toronto. Without further ado, I'll now turn it over to Roger. Roger?
Thank you very much, Valentin, and good morning to everyone. And thank you very much for joining us for this webinar this morning. Yes, it is this time of the year. A new year is starting, so we are starting to think about the trends in our different industries. And in our industry, which is artificial intelligence and data analytics, we know that things are moving very, very fast. So we all the time have new trends that are impacting us. And it's always interesting to try to understand what's going to happen and to have an idea of what we have to expect, the purpose being to be prepared. That's what we want. We don't really like surprises, so we want to have an idea of what is going to happen. And the purpose of this webinar is to help you with that, share my thoughts on the different trends that we are going to expect in this industry of AI. So here is what we are going to see today, and it is very consistent with everything that you can read. I did a lot of research. I have my own idea, but I did a lot of research, and actually we are all very consistent on what is going to happen. So it is reassuring in some way, and it is reinforcing certainly the message and our thoughts on what is going to happen. The efforts that are going to be made by the industry, the investments, and the results that we are entitled to expect in this area. So let's start with the first one. So the first one, as you see here, is the resources, and it is probably one of the most important, of course, because we want to create teams, we want the things to happen and evolve, so we need people to do that. And it appears that the key, the cornerstone of a team in artificial intelligence is the data scientist. The famous data scientist being the sexiest job of the 21st century, but it has an issue. We are not many. It's the scarcity of the resource that is a problem. So why that, and what do we have to expect? First, the issue is to really define what is a data scientist. So very often you will find, and this big controversy on that, and I don't like talking about the fake data scientist. It's just that there are different roles, and it's important to put the right name on the different roles and skills. So it is commonly admitted that a data scientist is the convergence of mathematics, computer science, and business. It's very rare to find a perfect balance within the three. You always have a little bit of this balance, but you need at least a good level of comfort in the three of them. That's what you should have. The mathematics are very often forgotten, and that's what makes the role of data science a little bit more difficult to find. If you find someone who is coming most of the time from computer science and is presenting to you as a data scientist, And if you ask this person to define what is a regression, what is a gradient descent, and what is backpropagation, and cannot answer that, then you have an issue because the math knowledge at the base is not there. So it will be very, very limitative. So that's the issue that we have today. We have a huge demand and not a lot of resources. It is expected to grow like that until 2026, according to some analysis, some research that I read. As you see on the slide, 28% increase is expected in the demand until 2026. The issue is that the resource is not following. So we have this exponential increase of the demand that is coming from the media, the democratization of the AI. Everybody's talking about it. So companies are starting to realize that it is something that we have to do, is something that can bring something positive. This realization, this knowledge is increasing very fast. So there is a lot of demand, but the offer is not following. Why? Because the schools, the colleges, and the universities are not following in the programs. Plenty of reasons for that, but in university, for example, here in Canada, we have basically University of Toronto and University of Queen's that started 1.5 years ago to have an MMA program, so a master in management analytics. So that is the area of managing data science, but it's very, very recent. I participated to the creation of the program here in Toronto at the college level for the College George Brown, which is going to launch now. It's not even launched yet this year, going to launch the first program 1 year full-time on data science to create data scientists as a certification on the college. And it's not even launched yet because it was delayed for plenty of reasons. We have been working on it for almost 2 years and it's still not launched. So this issue in training is creating this gap that we have between the demand from the industry, from the companies, and the offer from data science. The chief data scientist is officially a name, so that is very recent. We didn't know really how to call at the C level something that would be created, and recently it has been officialized. So the CDS position is now official. You can put it on your business card. And according to a recent study, actually, the chief data scientist in the company would be divided in 3 tiers. Approximately 50% of them would be dedicated in business development, so more on the marketing side for revenue increase. A quarter of them would be in optimization of processes, so would be mainly in the industry to optimize process. And the remaining quarter would be in risk management, which is mainly in the finance and banking industry, in the loans and finance and banking. So mainly in the risk management. So that's what we can expect as a dispatch of the different responsibilities of the new coming chief data scientist. Another issue as well on the training is that so we don't have a lot of programs that are existing today, even if we are preparing some to create the data scientist, but also in the companies when we are recruiting data scientists, there is still at the level of the companies a difficulty to recognize the self-training. So, and unfortunately, data scientists today don't have a lot of options than to just go on the net and educate themselves through some free university programs, some MOOCs, and some books, and get the knowledge that they need. It's not everybody who can have the time and the money to pretend to have a master in applied mathematics, a master in computer science, and an MBA. That would be the ideal. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often. So you need to start somewhere and then pick the rest through different programs that you can find on the net. And that's today the most important resources that you can find. And you need to have this, this leap of faith to be able to test as well those people. But it's not because they educated themselves with some programs on the net that it is not valid. It's the opposite. It can be very good, and we don't have a lot of choices today. It's the most important part. So that's something to keep in mind. If the threshold to get a job in the company is mandatorily to have university diplomas, you will have some difficulties because they barely exist. And they are very, very recent. So we have to be very, very cautious about that. Last word about the resources is a new trend. It's a new position, which is the one of the business translators. So beside the data scientist, there is the emergence of this position, of this responsibility. This is the one of the business translator. And the business translator is actually the hyphen between the business and the analyst and the team of data science. Those two words, business and data science, are not communicating very well. They don't speak the same language. They don't see the world the same way. And if they talk directly, one with the other, it's not always working very well. Let's say that. There is a lot of miscommunication. So there is the need of the hyphen, the bridge between the two, which is this translator. This person has a good understanding of the business, knows the language of the business, is perfectly conscious of what is an ROI, what is the purpose of the business, what are the fixed expenses, what do we have to face, what is a marketing plan, knows the language of the business. In the same time, has a very good and deep knowledge and understanding of the data science, knows what is a regression, knows what is a backpropagation, and be able to talk the language of the data science, understand what it is. So we'll take the problem of the business, we'll bring it to the data science, translating it in their language. We'll be able to think with them about one of the most important things, which is the cost function of the different models that has to adapt to the reality of the business, follow the job that is done by the team, and then take the results of the team in data science and bring it back to the business, and then be able to explain it. So there is all the part that the data scientists have sometimes some difficulties to do, which is the storytelling. And I say that to my students at the University of Toronto on a regular basis. You say, as a data scientist, you have to be able to also tell the story. Storytelling is extremely important to be able to communicate what you did. If you start communicating complicated mathematical formulas to the business, you are going to lose them. So you have to be able to use another language. And that's what the business translator should be able to do. Bring back the science and be able to explain it to the business with their vocabulary in order to enhance not really how, just to bring the trust on how it has been done, but enhance the benefits of it, what we are going to be able to do, how we are going to be able to use it. So that's a new area, those business translators that are coming to be, unfortunately, even more difficult to find than the data scientist, because that's really the two words, and it's not easy. So that's all the world of the resources, and it's going to be more and more acute in the business. Companies are going to feel more and more this lack of resources in data scientists. They have to be able to adapt in order to adapt the recruitment process and accept people made on courses on the net. It's fine, they can be very good. You just have to find someone who is able to test them to be sure that they can do what they pretend to do, how they learned it. and try to find those business translators within the company, with the choices that we will have to do as well. And do we really want to have a team inside the company, or do we want to outsource with teams outside? Because then we can, dispatch the work and divide it in order to be a little bit more efficient. So that will be something that is going to be in the top of the minds on most of the businesses in 2001 and the years to come, because we expect the situation to be like that and increase until 2026. If we do the projections on the curve, they start crossing in 2026, when we think that the universities will catch up, universities and colleges will catch up on the training, and then we'll start feeding the industry with enough people with the right skills. Until then, we have to do with what we have and adapt. The next one is the convergence between IoT NLP and RPA. So the Internet of Things, the natural language processing, and the robotic automation. So those three domains have been growing independently, and they evolved. But when we think about it, they were doomed to converge at one moment. It's the destiny is for them to converge and work together. When you have the IoT that allows the machines, the objects, to be able to communicate with on the net, to share information, receive information, and send it. When the NLP will allow those machines to communicate not only with each other and the net, but with the humans, so to be able to understand words, to give sense to a text or speech. And when the decisions that are made through the analysis of all that can be automated through robots, then we see how all that is going to work together. And they will need each other to actually be fully efficient and create the agents that we are expecting and that we are waiting for, that will be able to communicate with each other, communicate with the humans, make decisions and automate the decisions and execute them. That's where we want to, that's what we want to go and where we want to be. A lot of work is going in this area. Still, the three have been evolving more or less independently. It's now, and we are going to see that increasing in 2021, that we see the convergence of them. We see, for example, projects that we have been approached with when we have to work on in the industry with machines that are plugged on the net. So we already worked on machines that are recording logs, and you take the logs, you analyze them, and you make some decisions, and you make some automation to optimize the processes. Now we are talking about real time. We're talking about machines that are directly plugged on the net, that are feeding the algorithms with real-time data that's going to be analyzed, and the result of the analysis is going to be applied through automations right away. So we see a lot of increase in this area. So it's something that's going to be prominent in 2021. I even heard recently an expression. I don't know if we have to be afraid of that or not, but I found this expression interesting when someone was talking about the democracy of objects. So objects that are able to talk to each other, communicate with each other, and make decisions without human intervention. It's your connected fridge that identify there is no milk, connect on Amazon, order the milk, pay directly from your bank account. Amazon is sending a drone, bringing the milk in front of you, and your house robot is picking it, putting in the fridge. There is no human intervention in the execution. The human intervention was before, obviously, in writing the codes and giving the orders in advance that will be executed after. So something that is going to happen way faster than we think. It's really there. It's on the door. So we are going to see that very, very, very fast. We have to start being ready of the ideas of that. and be ready to adapt the environment for this kind of reality. The third one is the cloud and democratization of the AI, of the realization of the algorithm on the analytics. It started a few years ago with Amazon, that created Amazon Web Services. That is now their most important work and source of revenue. At the beginning, it was just creating servers and sharing servers and hosting data. And more they added features, because now people thought, why I'm going to have a work on my computer when I can share virtual machines that can be able to scale very easily. And on top of that, they went on and on everything that is, which purpose is to make the work of the team of data science easier and easier. It has been followed very closely by IBM, created the IBM Cloud, just after by Microsoft with Microsoft Azure, and more recently by Google, that created the Google Cloud Platform. It is an environment that is extremely competitive. They are currently on a real price war. Google is approximately a third cheaper than AWS right now. It's huge. We have to be very, very careful of everything that is price war. It means that there are plenty of things that are hidden. The services are very comparable. Most of them will answer the needs of all the chain of data analysis. So they will host your data. They will help you to create the API. You can code or not code. You can create your functions. You can do the analysis. You can deploy applications. You can manage the security. You have very sophisticated visualization tools. If you go on the menu of AWS, you have 4 columns of features and products that will answer all your needs in data analytics and creation of applications and deployment of programs. It's very, very sophisticated. What they try to do, and one of the big marketing features, is the no code. You do not have to know how to code in order to build a very sophisticated program. You go on Microsoft Azure today, and if you go on the machine learning platform and AutoML, you will be able to build a very sophisticated algorithm just by moving blocks. So you have a menu on the side with options of functions that you want to do. So I want to take a database, I want to clean this database, remove the outliers, fill the missing data. I want to split this database for the training and the testing. I want to apply a logistic regression. All that you do that by dragging little squares, little boxes that you link by arrows and lines, and you can run it without even knowing what is the code that is on the background. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantage, of course, it is simple. So it's the democratization of it. It means that more people will be able to do it, but they will do it without knowing exactly what is happening in the background. So danger. It means that you totally trust what is there. It limits as well the possibility to customize and fine-tune the different models. So pros and cons. It is very tempting. Be careful about cutting the corners. And in terms of price, be careful as well, because it is, as I say, it is a price war currently. It's extremely competitive. So sometimes you have an offer that seems to be very nice, very tempting. Be careful about the small characters. There are sometimes some costs that are happening in the background and can be a surprise when the bill is coming. And I know what I'm talking about. I haven't cooked out that. So be careful about it. But it is very, very interesting. It's a very, very interesting word, very interesting offer. It allows a great scalability, but something that we are looking for. So I would say everybody is using it. It depends how we want to use it. It's still possible to code on it and really use all the advantages of it. If you want to just move the little boxes, it's possible as well, but be aware of the danger of it. So, but that's a reality, and it's going to explode even more in 2021. Those are the platforms where the things are happening. The functions, the programs, the algorithm, everything now is going to be done, run, created, maintained on the cloud platforms. How deep we want to use them, it depends. But the reality is that that's where it happens, and it's going to happen there more and more. And it's very secure. There's no issue on that. Still have many customers that say, well, I don't trust the cloud. I prefer to have a server on premise. No, it's finished. Server on premises is done. The cloud is extremely secure. There are some regulations and rules nationally, if you work for government agencies, for example, that want the data to reside locally on the soil, so of the nation. So that is fine. AWS and all the other, and Microsoft, and all of them have implementations a little bit everywhere. So, for example, if you absolutely need the data to be in Canada, all of them have servers in Canada, and it's absolutely not a problem. So all that to be kept in mind, because that will be the reality of 2021. The fourth one is the digital twin and simulation. So I found that interesting as a trend, something that I see more and more. It's actually building on the huge progress that we see in virtual reality and augmented reality, with the AI on the background, in order to simulate situations. And the simulation of situations allows to identify a reaction and train people in a situation that can be potentially dangerous. The situation by itself can be dangerous, or the consequences of a wrong decision in situation can be catastrophic. So we want to test it, and we want to train also people to react in those situations. It can be plenty of things. We are starting to see that in the military, in the police, in the health services, ambulances, firefighters, plenty of things like that, when we see training systems that are using the evolution of AI, virtual and augmented reality, in order to recreate situations. And the situations, because of AI, are very realistic and very volatile. They will adapt according to the reaction of the trainee, according to the decisions that are made, in order to send some curveballs, still being realistic, in order to test more and more the reaction of the people and train them to react in some very, very difficult situations where they have to decide under stress and in total uncertainty. We see that as well in the creation of simulation of environments. So we see them more and more in economics, finance, and geopolitics. So when you can recreate, for example, the economy of a country, or the economy of a region, or the economy of an industry, or even recreate the complexity of the geopolitical interactions between countries, in order to simulate the consequences of decisions that can be made. That helps in the decision-making process. It can be very complex, but that's the world of AI. It is complex, and that's why those very complex algorithms that we create are able to analyze a very, very the complexity in depth, in order to see all the little details and the little connections and correlations that can have, and help people to simulate a situation in order to enhance the decision-making process. So we are going to see that more and more. I forgot as well in the industry, you know, I saw some simulators in managing nuclear plants. Same thing, you know, it's something that can be potentially dangerous. So we are not in a crisis and hostile environment. It's just delicate, and if something is happening, you have to make the right decisions. So you can put a trainee in a situation when they will have to make decisions and manage a tool that is potentially dangerous if you are doing the wrong things, without having them put in the real situation. So we see plenty of things happening like that, and it's going to increase because it's extremely useful. It helps, has a lot of advantages, and we can do it more and more. It's more and more realistic. The next one is the search engines. So that is obviously coming with the consequences of the COVID crisis. We saw and we observed a considerable increase in the e-commerce. And even if it's not new, but we saw that a big thing in the e-commerce is the search engine. So a lot of people started to create their own e-commerce platform. So we can have the big ones and have the smaller ones. But one of the most issue, the search engine, remains the same for everyone and since the beginning. You want three things. You want the people who are coming on the platform to find what they are looking for. You want the product that you are offering to be found. And you cannot let a potential customer in limbo just saying, no, we cannot find it, no, we don't have it. You have to offer an alternate solution. No, we do not have it, but we have an equivalent product or several. Or we have, if it's on the B2B platform, for example, we have a supplier who is supplying equivalent products and can perhaps find it for you. Or we perhaps find it for you as well. We always have to provide a solution. It means that the initial research has to be very well understood. And that is extremely complicated. We talked totally at the beginning about the NLP, natural language processing. It's really part of it, understanding very well, as clearly as possible, what is the demand at the beginning, what is the subject of the search. And that can be very, very complex. Then everything that is offered has to be tagged, indexed. So the creation of the taxonomies with the different tags and the indexes is something that is extremely complex as well. Even that is starting to be more and more sophisticated. In the research I did recently, I saw, for example, an offer where you can index and tag objects just by taking pictures, something that was done manually up to now. You just take, for example, if you are selling shoes, you take a photo of the pair of shoes and it's going to tag immediately on the model in the taxonomy, the size, the color, the made, everything will be already registered just by the photography or a set of photographies. So it's enhancing a lot this process and making it sometimes way more precise and certainly faster. So there is a big evolution that is done on that, with also two different offers. You have solutions that are off the shelves. So someone who doesn't have a team of data scientists or developers that would be able to create from scratch those search engine will be able to find it off the shelves. You have many offers. The average ticket is approximately $500 US a month. It can go up to 2,000, but they will customize the search engine, they will maintain it for you, they will put it together, and they are usually quite good and rather sophisticated. It's a good solution. The price is rather high, so it has to worth it in the system. Of course, the other solution is to do it yourself. If you have the team and the capacity, the development team to be able to do it. The tools today that we have, we still have Solar. Solar has been there for a long time, still prominent, still there, doing a great job. But recently we have Elasticsearch that appeared and is built on top of Solar. So it's using the same algorithms, using the same engine, but it's just simpler. The interface is way simpler, easier to use. You have more features. It's easier to fine-tune the parameters, and everybody is using it. Not everybody, but majority today is really using Elasticsearch. It works very, very well. It's open source, so it's free. The core is free, but they would offer additional packages that you will have to pay for. So you can use Elasticsearch by itself, but if you want, for example, the package for the security, for some optimization of the process, to increase the creation of the taxonomies and indexes, so you have some additional packages that they took, the plus packages, that you will have to pay for. It's an interesting model actually, but the core is still free. It's open source, and it is extremely powerful. So this area of the search engine is something that we are going definitely to see in 2021 with the explosion of e-commerce that we see. The differentiator on all those platforms of e-commerce will be, for sure, the search engine. So the ones that are going to have the right solution on the search engine are going to emerge right away. The other one are going to just barely survive or disappear with time. The differentiator will be there. So it's something that we are going to see and that we are going to experience as customers as well. We see immediately when we are looking for something and make a search ourselves, we see immediately the search engine that is good or not by our own user experience. So big thing in our everyday life. The last one, I kept this one for the end. It's probably the most complicated, actually, technically, but it's going to have an impact at one moment. And I say it's still a little bit uncertain because it's at the level of the research still. What is the explicability? And it applies to the neural network. The issue is that in the world of AI, you have different kind of algorithms that you can use. Some are, I would say, the classic algorithms that are some linear regression or logistic regression or SVM or others that are easy to explain. The easiest one to explain is a decision tree, for example. You can explain the result of the calculation by the path that has been taken in order to arrive to this result. So on a decision tree, you can say at the end of the leaf, if we are here is because we have been answering positively to all those conditions going back to the beginning of the decision tree. So it's possible to explain it. Now, if you are using a neural network, this network is so complicated and complex with so many parameters that it is today impossible to explain the results. So that's what we call the black box. You just have data that is getting in, an answer that is getting out, but you cannot explain how you got this answer. You can explain the theory, but you cannot have an exact view of the parameters and the weights that have been used at that moment because they are very volatile and they change all the time. Why it is a problem is that because in some industries, the regulators would prevent the use of the black box for ethical reasons. I will give you the example of the loans. Loans and the automation of decisions of loans can be done today with algorithms that are going to score the ability of reimbursement, which is the probability that you are going to reimburse a loan. And according to this scoring system, the loan will be granted or not. The regulator estimates that it is impossible to automate a decision that will have an impact on lives, on a human life. If it is for an individual, by granting a loan for the life of an individual, a family, to buy a house, to buy a car, or indirectly on a business, without being able to explain it. Ethically, it is not possible, it is not conceivable that you can just tell someone, I cannot give you this loan because I put the data here, I got the answer at the other side, and I'm unable to explain why. I just trust the algorithm. We cannot do that. We have to be able to explain it. So for that reason, a big part of the industry and all the finance, insurance, banking, mortgage industry have been deprived from the power of the neural networks now for some time. But those neural networks are so powerful that obviously we want to use them. So all a branch of research has been created rather recently that is called the explainable neural networks. So the XNN, small x, NN. So the XNN, which is explainable neural networks, is all a branch of research currently. So currently we are at the level of universities, laboratories, research, some private companies that are pushing on it and investing a lot on it. We started to see the first results and the first papers coming at the end of last year. Some very interesting results are coming. Again, it is something that is very complex. Just to give you an idea for the complexity of the neural network, there was a paper recently when a team of researchers were very happy to have simplified a neural network by reducing the number of parameters to only 2 million. So that gives you an idea of the complexity of having a picture at one moment and be able to summarize what is the complexity of the decision that has been made, why. So some results happened at the end of last year, and we can expect, as what we see in the papers that have been published, that is going to really increase this year. So if the things are going at the same speed, we can reasonably expect that by the end of the year 2021, probably beginning of 2022, we are going to see the first attempt at asking the regulator to start authorizing the use of neural networks in those industries that are not authorized yet. There will be some tests, but we are probably going to reach this level way sooner than we think, probably by the end of the year. So this is going very, very fast, and I think that some walls have been broken already, and things are going to be very, very, very interesting. So that is a domain that will not be immediately visible as a product that will be on our face, like the IoT, the NLP, the bots, etc. But it's going to largely impact our lives indirectly through the financial industry. And for the people that are working in this area, this is definitely an area to be, because it's going to be a breakthrough that's going to be absolutely phenomenal when we are going to be able to explain those neural networks. So that's it. We have it's 45, but we will have a little bit of time for the questions, because that is just a very, very, very large overview. And Valentin, if you want to take over for the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Roger, and thanks everyone for joining. So as I said at the beginning of the webinar, you can ask your question on the right-hand side of your screen. So feel free to share them in there, and I'll then publish them on the screen. So while we wait for that, Roger, I had one question on my end. I know you touched upon the new role of business translators. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about that in terms of how companies should grasp / implement that? Like, what are the things they should think about?
Yes, because something rather new. So you would be tempted in becoming a business translator. Yes. Well, it's an interesting position, and actually, yes, it's a question that is asked very often. So how do we find them, and how do we train them? How do we become a business translator? The question very often is, do we have to start with the business or do we have to start with the data science? It's not easy, it's a little bit both of them. If you start with the data science, so you take a data scientist, you will have to add the business layer at one moment. It means that the data scientist will have to have some connection with the business and an interest in the business, which is not always the case. Now, if you are going on the other side, which happens to be sometimes more successful, is to take someone who is already in business. Someone who is already in business will mandatorily have already some appetite or some understanding of mathematics. Business is calculations, business is math. Even marketing, we can have a discussion on that, but I still argue that marketing is first quantitative before being creative. So we can argue that on business there is a good understanding of quantities, numbers, math. So it's possible to add the layer of the data science on top of it. Which is going a little bit deeper in math if it's necessary, a little bit deeper in computer science, and some courses online, as I said previously, that are extremely well done. You take the CS50 from Harvard, which is free online. It's a complicated course. It's not easy, but if you do it, you understand everything about coding and computing in no time. This course is absolutely fantastic and totally free. So by doing this kind of things, it's possible to get the necessary knowledge to be comfortable enough in order to assume this this link, this communication between the two words. That's what I would recommend definitely.
Okay. Great, thank you. I have one last question before we go. You talked about digital twins. I was curious to understand, when we talk about digital twins, is that more, let's say, for big corporation, enterprise level type of firms, or is that something that can apply to smaller firms as well for like the purpose of simulation, for example?
It's for all sizes, all kind, and it's actually a general answer for AI, because we always very often have this question about artificial intelligence. Say yes, but AI, it is something that is complicated, it is expensive, and it's only for large companies. This is not true. Everybody can benefit from AI tools and analytics, even medium and even small companies. It's absolutely not an issue. There are plenty of tools that can be a little bit simpler. You can benefit from data that has been collected outside of your business in order to benefit from it and train the algorithms. So you can have the benefit of the AI, even of the smaller scale. And in terms of simulator, for example, I saw recently a company that put together a simulator of operations for a restaurant. So you can design in virtual reality, you can design your restaurant with the different tables, etc. So that's for the time when the restaurants are going to reopen soon, hopefully. So you can design your restaurant, simulate it, and then you enter some parameters in terms of, for example, the speed to, so you put your menu, the speed to create the different dishes, the number of people that are going to work in the space. So the waitresses, the people at the bar, the people in the kitchen. How do you manage all that? So you enter the parameters, and then the AI is going to induce the uncertainty, the volatility of it, and you are going to be able to simulate if people obviously are not going to come nicely on a nice flow. You are going to have 20 people that are going to arrive at one time and nobody during half an hour. Something's going to happen in the kitchen. Some dish is going to be missed. Something is going to not work somewhere. The waitress is going to drop a plate. So all that is going to be created by the algorithm through random and probabilities. And how do we how do we react to that? How do we manage the crisis? How do we manage the flow? And you can make simulations then by making different choices. Do I have to add someone on the floor, or have too many? If you have too many on the floor, they are going to jam themselves. So you can make plenty of simulation like that. It's a very, very neat little tool that I saw recently, and it's applied for restaurants, so small business. So everybody can benefit from it. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Interesting. Great. Well, thank you for your answers, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and if you want to have a discussion with Roger in the future. You can also find more information on NEOS on our website on neosgroup.ca. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Roger, and have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Thank you, Valentin, for hosting us, and thank you everyone for your time. Hope you have a wonderful end of day and wonderful weekend under the snow here in Toronto. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.